Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and welcome to the Spring Cup. This is a brand new 1500 CP format in Go Battle League, where only Grass, Water, and Fairy-type Pokemon are allowed, and Toxapex has been banned. And in this format, one of the Pokemon that I believe is the absolute strongest is going to be Tentacruel. Tentacruel, of course, shares the same typing as Toxapex, but it's actually allowed, and this Pokemon can put in an incredible amount of work against the entire meta. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out some practice Spring Cup battles featuring Tentacruel. Hopping to the first match, picking up a bit of a tricky lead, Abomasnow into Galarian Weezing. Galarian Weezing does of course have access to Overheat, which would easily one-shot the Abomasnow. I'm going to fire off the Weather Ball, get some nice chip damage, and I'm actually going to send in my own Galarian Weezing here. I know I tank whatever they throw here, even if they go for the Overheat. They actually go for a Play Rough bait, and now they're going to send in their own Abomasnow. They're running the Shadow. I am not baiting here, going straight for the Overheat, and my opponent is going to commit the shield. I'm farming up with the Weezing. Opponent is going to overfarm and fire off the Weather Ball to deny my second Overheat. But honestly, that's perfectly fine for me because I have an extremely good response to this Abomasnow with my Tentacruel. I will commit the shield on the Energy Ball. Unfortunately, my opponent does bait with the Weather Ball, so I'm going to have to go down 2 shields here. But honestly, I'm not super worried about going down 2 shields because I leave with so much energy here. I'm now going for the Acid Spray bait. Scald would just about be lethal here. I'm able to get a shield from my opponent. They're going to be firing off a charge move here. They are going to fire off the Overheat. That's going to be resisted. In the back, my opponent has Pelipper, and I can fire off the Acid Spray here, lower their defense by 2 stages, send in the Abomasnow. Abomasnow is going to make it to the Weather Ball, and this Weather Ball, thanks to the debuff, just about KOs. One more Powder Snow, they get taken out. Back in comes the Weezing. Weezing not going to make it to a move as Abomasnow KOs with a Weather Ball and secures the win. Picking up a tough lead in the next match, Abomasnow into Seaking. Seaking, of course, typically is going to run the move of Poison Jab, so I am going to save switch out of here. I send in my Galarian Weezing, and my opponent is going to respond with Dewgong. Dewgong does have a pretty decent matchup against Galarian Weezing, purely based on the fact that it can just continually debuff the Galarian Weezing and basically just win via a war of attrition. I'm going to farm up here and go for the Overheat. Overheat is going to hit for neutral here. Unfortunately, due to the debuff, it's not going to be enough to KO. My opponent is going to be firing off another move with the Dewgong. It's the Icy Wind. They go for the Undercharge, and that actually allows me to reach another Brutal Swing. Now, this Brutal Swing not going to be enough to KO, but it should hopefully put it into farm down range for the Abomasnow, and the Abomasnow is just able to farm down. Now I'm very close to an Energy Ball, which I can use to grab a shield from the Seaking. Back in comes the Seaking. I'm firing off the Energy Ball here. That's going to grab a shield. And now in comes the closer of Tentacruel. In the back, my opponent has the Dedenne. Dedenne, of course, can hit for super effective damage with the Discharge, but they're taking super effective damage in return. And with my shield advantage, I fully intend on double shielding, farming all the way down, and then using all of this energy onto the Seaking in the endgame here. My opponent is going to send back in the Seaking, and I'm going to fire off the Acid Spray, wanting to get access to that early debuff. They are now 2 stages debuffed. They can't reset that for the rest of the game. I fire off the Scald. That deals quite a bit of damage. I farm up, switch, and I catch the Drill Run onto my Abomasnow. But they're running Mega Horn. I get one shot. Tentacruel, thankfully still able to farm down. But my goodness, that Mega Horn came out of nowhere. Same leads in the next match, Abomasnow into another Seaking. Same game plan as before. I'm going to immediately save switch into my Galarian Weezing. Weezing is going to strike first, going for the Brutal Swing and getting some chip damage. I will respect the potential Drill Run here. Opponent unfortunately baits with an Icy Wind. Definitely not what I was hoping to see. My opponent is now going to send in their own Galarian Weezing, and I'm just going to start spamming out Overheats. Overheat number 1 deals quite a bit of damage. I continue to farm, and I make it to Overheat number 2. I am now 3 stages debuffed here, but Overheat is such a good move that it still KOs, and winning switch advantage is absolutely massive. My opponent is going to be sending back in the Seaking. At this point, I'm triple debuffed. I'm not shielding a thing. They are going to fire off the Icy Wind. I'm going to aggressively switch into the Tentacruel. Tentacruel, unfortunately, is going to be met with a Drill Run from the Seaking, and I'm giving up my final shield. I'm down 2 shields, but I can debuff whatever they have in the back, and it's a Tropius. The Tropius has 2 shields, Tentacruel has 0, but guess what? It's not going to matter as Tentacruel with energy is just so oppressive into this meta. My opponent tanks the first Acid Spray, they shield the second, but they are now 4 stages debuffed in terms of their defense. Leaf Blade, not gonna cut it. These poison jabs absolutely shred through the Tropius. I get the farm down to the Sea King, and that's a good game. Moving into the next match, leading Abomasnow into Ferrothorn. Now this is a bit of a tricky matchup because Ferrothorns in this meta do typically enjoy running Flash Cannon, and Flash Cannon would absolutely devastate the Abomasnow. I'm able to land the Weather Ball, opponent does build up to the Flash Cannon, I'll respect it with a shield, and I get baited with a Power Whip. That is a terrible feeling. I'm farming up, and I'm firing off another Weather Ball here, hoping this is going to be enough to KO. Weather Ball is not enough. Opponent is now going to save switch into Pelipper. Pelipper will be met with a Weather Ball bait from the Abomasnow. Weather Ball is able to get the shield. Pelipper is farming up, and now I'm going for the Energy Ball. Energy Ball not going to KO here, but it will get the Pelipper quite low, and now I'm going to send in Galarian Weezing. Weezing farming up. Pelipper has so much energy here, I'm just going to let this through. They go for the Weather Ball. I go for the Brutal Swing, but I lose CMP on the Hurricane. Definitely not the greatest play by me. I'm just going to let that through, and instead, now I can choose to get farm on the Tentacruel or on the Abomasnow. I'm actually going to send in the Tentacruel. Let's get a bit of an energy lead here. We'll have to see what the opponent has in the back, and they have a Lantern, and things are looking absolutely awful for me. As Tentacruel, as I mentioned, has play versus just about anything in this meta, but Lantern is a pretty decent check to the Tentacruel. I'm going to commit the shield here. Lantern goes for the Thunderbolt, and there's the combo play. Back in comes the Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn fires off the Power Whip. That's going to get me low. Back in comes the Lantern. I'm going to be firing off another Acid Spray, looking to get the debuff. My opponent is going to let that through. Now I'm going to send back in the Abomasnow. Abomasnow will resist whatever they throw, but I just don't have enough HP remaining. I can make it to a Weather Ball, but the Lantern, if they want to, since they're debuffed, can very safely shield the Weather Ball, farm down, and they are going to be able to outpace the Tentacruel there. So Lantern KOs with a Surf, and that's game over. Picking up a tough lead in the next match, Abomasnow into an opposing Tentacruel. I'm going to save switch into Galarian Weezing, and my opponent responds with a Shadow Firefang Mawile. One weak spot I would say for this team is the fact that since I am running Abomasnow and Galarian Weezing, my team is a bit weak to an opposing Tentacruel on the lead. My opponent shields the Brutal Swing bait, I go for the Overheat, and I'm able to land it, and winning switch is absolutely imperative as I have to free the Abomasnow from that Tentacruel. I can't make it to the double Brutal Swing, so I'm just going to go for a last second Overheat here, and now I can bring in my own Tentacruel to match theirs. They're going to be firing off a charge move, everything is resisted here, so I am going to let this through. They go for the Scald, they do get the attack debuff, I go for a Scald of my own, but my opponent makes a very nice catch. They catch the Scald onto their Ferrothorn. I do want to get a bit of energy on my Tentacruel here, so I'm going to rebank a Scald for later and send in Abomasnow. I will have to protect against a potential Flash Cannon here. My opponent does full send the Flash Cannon, so that is an absolutely massive shield. I'm farming up, going for a Weather Ball. This is not going to be enough to KO, but it will be getting that Ferrothorn quite low. Ferrothorn now quite low. They're firing off another move. I am going to double shield the Abomasnow here. It is another Flash Cannon. Abomasnow gets the farm down, leaves with quite a bit of energy to threaten the Tentacruel. Now Tentacruel does actually lose CMP to Abomasnow here. Energy Ball gets the shield, and I just tank whatever they throw here. I have no shields remaining. They go for a Sludge Wave. I definitely cannot tank a Sludge Wave, and now I'm going to put my saved energy from earlier to good use. I fire off the Acid Spray because the Scald by itself will not KO, and I'm able to make it to the Scald. Their defense is now 2 stages debuffed. Scald will get the KO as we escape with a very close win. The tough leads continue in the next match, Abomasnow into Araquanid. I'm going to save switch into Galarian Weezing. Here, I arguably make a mistake. I should have gone for the Brutal Swing before they debuff me. I wanted to bluff an Overheat, but it's important to get some damage off onto the Araquanid before they're able to land the Bubble Beam, because now these future Brutal Swings are going to be doing less. As you can see, Araquanid tanks it like it's absolutely nothing after that Bubble Beam debuff. I'm going for another Brutal Swing here. Araquanid, again, gonna let this through, and Araquanid is just gonna keep spamming out these Bubble Beams to try and lower my attack more and more and more. My opponent is actually gonna switch switch out. They send in Jellicent, and now our switch timers are very misaligned, and I can take advantage of this. I'm actually going to switch back into the Abomasnow, and this way I can hopefully get some value out of the Abomasnow. They go for the Shadow Ball. That does quite a bit of damage. I'm going to farm up with the Abomasnow and go for the one-shot with the Energy Ball here. Is the opponent willing to shield? They are not, and they get KO'd. Back in comes Araquanid. I'm trying to make it to the Energy Ball, but I'm just not able to get there. I'll have to settle for a Weather Ball here. I'm one short, and great counting by my opponent, recognizing that fact. But now I can send in Tentacruel, get an energy lead, and I'm just going to Acid Spray debuff whatever they have in the back. And it's revealed to be a Trevenant. I farm up, switch, and catch a move onto the Galarian Weezing. The Seed Bomb is going to be resisted. Weezing has energy, and now I get to pressure some shields back with the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing is going to grab the shield. Trevenant not going to make the farm down before a second Brutal Swing is reached. Galarian Weezing gets both shields. In comes Tentacruel. Tentacruel is going to lose CMP to the Trevenant. At this point, the moves from Trevenant are going to do more than anything from the Araquanid. So I am going to be shielding whatever they throw. Acid Spray, not going to do a lot of damage, but of course will get that ever-important 2-stage defense drop. And I'm just going to double shield here, fully farm down, and leave with energy to threaten the Araquanid. In comes the Araquanid. Araquanid getting farmed down as well. And now I can go for the Scald. They are no longer debuffed, but it's not going to matter. Scald gets the KO and the victory. Picking up a great lead in the next match, Abomasnow into Trevenant. Honestly, the entire team does quite well against Trev. My opponent is staying in, and that works very great for me. I'm going to stay in here, fire off the Weather Ball just before they make it to the Shadow Ball. Weather Ball is going to get the shield, and since they're shielding, I'm more than happy to match shields here, as this is a very comfortable matchup for Abomasnow, and it allows me to overfarm. My opponent goes for a catch onto Araquanid. I'm going to bank an Energy Ball for later, and now I get to send in the Tentacruel. Tentacruel is an absolute wall to Araquanid. No matter what Araquanid throws, it is going to be resisted. They debuff me with a Bubble Beam, so I'm going to lower their defense by 2 stages with an Acid Spray. So this is going to be a battle of debuffs back and forth. Araquanid fires off another Bubble Beam. My attack is now 2 stages debuffed, and I'm going to be going for the Scald here. Scald, of course, is resisted, but I do want to try and get some damage. I am able to get the attack debuff from the Scald as well, which is quite nice. My opponent will fire off another Bubble Beam. I'm just going to go for the full farm down here. I am very debuffed, so I am going to look to pivot. My opponent is going to send in the Trevenant, and I'm going to bring back in the Abomasnow with energy. I'm going for the Weather Ball. It's going to KO. In the back, my opponent has Galarian Weezing, and from here, this game is over. I fire off the Weather Ball. That's going to connect. I'm farming up, and I'm going for Weather Ball number 2. This would basically threaten a KO, so we do see a shield from my opponent. They're going to be forced to throw a charge move. That works for me. I'm just going to let this through. They go for the Brutal Swing because I have the Scald loaded on the Tentacruel. Scald more than enough to take care of Galarian Weezing and secure the win. We've got mirror leads in the final match, Abomasnow versus Abomasnow. I'm going to save switch into Galarian Weezing, basically just to check and see what my opponent has in the back here. Abomasnow is going to fire off the Weather Ball, and now my opponent is going to send in a Tentacruel. So Tentacruel, honestly, not the best matchup ever for Galarian Weezing, but Galarian Weezing with an energy lead does have play here. I'm going to farm up to back-to-back Brutal Swings. The question is, can I live the Poison Jab that snuck through? Yes, I can! Galarian Weezing with 1 HP remaining, able to force a shield from the Tentacruel. And now I'm going to bring in my own Tentacruel to absorb this damage. My opponent is going to fire off the Scald. Scald does not get the attack drop, which is quite nice. They're going for another move. I'm going to let this through as well. They're going for another Scald here. This time, they do get the debuff. I'm going to bank energy, send in Abomasnow, because I do want to get some energy here. In the back, my opponent is not going to reveal their third. They're going to send back in the Abomasnow. And I'm wondering, could this potentially be a mirror team? I'm able to land the Weather Ball. I have a shield advantage, so I am going to put it to good use here. I'm going to shield up the Weather Ball. My opponent in the back, they do have Galarian Weezing, so we are seeing a mirror team here. With the energy lead, I'm able to make it to the Weather Ball. That's going to connect. My opponent waits a turn, and they're going to be firing off a move. I shield it up, It's the Play Rough, so my opponent running Play Rough instead of Brutal Swing. For this meta, I do typically recommend Brutal Swing Overheat as the moveset for the Weezing. Weather Ball gets the shield, and Abomasnow wins CMP over the Weezing. You love to see it. Weather Ball is going to KO. Back in comes the Abomasnow, and now I get to use the energy that I had saved on Tentacruel. Acid Spray gets him low, and one Poison Jab gets the KO. All in all, the Spring Cup meta does look quite interesting, and this meta does look like a pretty nice alternative for those who don't necessarily have the resources to compete in Master League, as Master League is going to be the other meta that runs alongside it. And if you are running Spring Cup, I would definitely recommend testing out Tentacruel, because this thing is just an absolute monster into the meta. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.